welcome back to another episode of Rugby with Pads. For those of you watching on YouTube, you'll notice there's no difference. I'm saying the same hat, same shirt, same backdrop, which I'm going to change every so often. I've got a load of shirts I want to rotate in there. But yes, I'm recording 5 times in a row because I'm on a roll and I feel like I deserve it to myself and to you guys when I get a moment to record some podcast. Thank you so much for those of you who've been listening to the fundamentals and the fancy musings that I've got. I'm going to intersperse it with a bit of draft content coming in the next few weeks as well. But this week, we are going to talk about the week-to-week debate versus yearly stats. What makes a player good? And can you stop yourself from playing fantasy football well through paralysis by analysis? Yeah, choose your fight as well. Picking a team is easy, right? You look at who was good last year, and they'll probably be great next year. That works to a point. The top 10 turnover in any position is normally 20 to 30%, barring injury or a really good spike. But you'll be lucky to have 2 or 3 in the top 10 in any of your positions. Very, very rarely do you get that level of consistency in multiple years as well. So that rotation generally happens across a number of different players. The yearly stats are a product of a number of different factors: strength of schedule, team makeup, the results of game script, the impact of it. And to think that these scenarios can be duplicated in subsequent years is on the margins of crazy. Crazy? Genius? I don't know. Unless you have a true difference-making position who defies the rules. Patrick Mahomes, Jamar Chase are the exceptions to the rule, seemingly having such high levels of consistency every year. I'll give you an example at each position. Bo Nix, James Cook, Malik Neighbours and Johnny Smith are all in the top 8 coming out of 2024. Bo at 7 has the greatest chance of returning and having continuing success. With him building consistency, I would argue maybe it was rookie hubris that helped his gunslinger play style. His stats were heavily boosted by 30-odd point weeks in 8, 11, 17 and 18. 18 we don't play properly, it's not a real game for fantasy football anyway. We'll get on to it in another week, but you take them out and the average drops from 19 points to 15. Yeah, you guys thought I couldn't do statistical analysis. I can do it, guys. Which is more akin to another rookie, Caleb Williams. Aaron Rodgers last year, which was awful. Or even, God forbid, Bryce Young. And with dud weeks in games 13, 10 points, 6.7, and 14, all before week 8, he may, if you picked him early, have left you unable to take advantage of those week 17 and 18 bombastic games because you wouldn't have been in the playoffs. That, and who the hell plays in week 18? Come on, guys, don't play in week 18. Sorry, I'll stop. The numbers can't lie. I mean, do we expect Sean Payton to keep the training wheels off and let him sling that? Or do we expect a regression to the Drew Brees archetype that we all know and love, and that he probably expects him to become, a steady Eddie? James Cook is an interesting one because using a late season and postseason charge put him on line for a top of the market contract. I don't think he got a contract extension. Anyway, an RB1 consideration for 2025. But did you know he lost as many games as he won? Not in real life. They did really well. I think they went 13-4 or something like that. But he was a boom bust guy, with 5 scores below, respectability, averaging 6.5 in those 5 games, and taking out the comparable boom games, the top, the ones where it was above 20 points for some. His average is 11. That puts him on par with someone you would draft way earlier. Way later. J.K. Dobbins, Ramondre Stevenson, who had a bad year last year, Brian Robinson, who people drafted because they thought it was Bijan, DeAndre Swift. They're the comparisons. All were outside the RB2 range in a 12-man format. James Cook would have been among them outside of a couple of good weeks. Neighbours is an interesting one because there's a lot of chat around him. I didn't see it to start with, but he did end up wide receiver 8. But look at why. Daniel Jones, scarcity of other targets, and broken plays. He probably won the league for you, not gonna lie. 30 in week 17, but he probably also didn't. Week 14, less than 10, the one going into that. He probably lost you that first playoff game potentially. Followed by a respectable week in 14 and 15, abysmal, He also had abysmal games in week 16, 7 points. You were probably taken out by Brian Thomas Jr., if I'm being honest, who had that level of consistency. Malik Neighbours had a stretch of 10 weeks scoring 10 or less, with 2 of those weeks him being unavailable entirely. For every boom, there were nearly 3 bust games. Wide receiver 8? Do you see him as that? I don't see him as wide receiver 8. He could get there, but did he get you there? That makes sense. If that makes sense. He didn't take you along for the fancy ride, I guess. Finally, one of the biggest anomalies, you have the tight end position, and Jonnu Smith is the anomaly. Tight end 4 for the year. He started out with a 6-week run averaging 2.3 points. That's 2 catches and 3 yards. That's ridiculous. Anyway, having lost trust, he scores 16, only to follow up with 2 4s when you put him in the lineup because you thought, oh, maybe he's got it again. And people put him in and the trust is broken. He then follows up from a sliding scale down from that to 22. Only to fail in the playoffs again. Again, tight end was a bad position last year. The fact he was at number 4, it potentially made some of your weeks, but also broke most of them, and it would have been luck rather than judgment picking which weeks he popped off. You probably messed up your season as a whole. I very almost used a rude word I should have bleeped there. But what these examples go to show is that yearly stats and previous success hide the story. You cannot draft the same guys you did last year. You've got to analyse beyond that. But at the same time, you can't overanalyze because you'll never make a decision. Everyone's bad if you look hard enough. Should you do this level of analysis for everyone you pick? No, you should not. It was so tiring doing it for these 4 players. I will probably never do it again. You'll be here for hours and you'll never make a decision, and you'll be filled with a bunch of mediocre bums who never get off the ground because the stats tend to consistency. But should you expect a previous consensus top 10 peak or a previous performing top 10 peak to be like that week in, week out? Again, no. Long answer, no. Have you even listened to me now just now? Probably not. But that's what I was getting to. Think on the matchups, make a measured decision week on week, and understand that the player you have now rather than the player they might once have been. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to me rabbit on and talk numbers at you for the last 6 or 7 minutes. Really do appreciate it. I've really enjoyed this series, and I'm going to stop recording today. And next time I will go into rookie tropes because we're getting into draft season and what to look for in a sleeper. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this, like, subscribe, favourite, all that fun stuff, whatever platform you're watching. We're on YouTube as well, at Rugby with Pads on all the socials. You can support the pod for as little as £1 a month, or subscribe. You can do it for free. But on rugbywithpads.com, we do have merch. I'm not wearing any today, but I will be doing. You can get other things. We're going to do some trophies, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be fun there. And I'm going to be publishing this in more of a prose, maybe Kindle format, I don't know, at some point for your viewing pleasure, maybe as an ebook. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. The best thing you can do is listen to this podcast and watch and tell your friends, I guess, and get involved with fantasy football at any level. Really do appreciate it. Thank you so much once again for listening. I'm done with the thanks. And again, I know it's early. It's pre-season. Not even pre-season yet. Off-season. But I will see you all very soon on the Virtual Green.